Well, with our main threat defeated and many of the police taken down, it would seem that the show is over, but we are only at the halfway point, and the story definitely is far from over. Hey guys, here for Luke Cage, Season 1, Episode 6, Suckas need bodyguards, and holy shit, one episode. I mean, this is the episode of Luke Cage that was just firing on all cylinders, and shit really got done this episode, I have to say. And, I mean, this by far was the best episode of the season, without a doubt. This one was, like, non-stop action episodes. There were so many twists in this episode, it was just so well done. But, of course, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the fact that this seems to be almost like a season finale of sorts, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, what seems like the ending is not going to be the ending. I'll tell you that right off the bat. I really think the show is going to do what Daredevil Season 2 did, but I'm going to talk about that at the end of the episode. Let's just get in this episode because a shit ton of stuff happened. There was a lot to talk about, and I really want to get into it. Starting right off the bat with something I thought was really clever of them to do. We start off, we see, Luke, he's jogging through the city, and he's listening to Trish talk, of course, Jessica's best friend, Trish, and I thought it was kind of cool the way they subtly had a cameo for her without her actually having a cameo. And she's basically talking about how, Luke is this new public hero, and concludes that every single person who actually knows Luke really does support him and feels that he's even better than the police. They feel they don't need the police anymore. And there are a lot of interesting conversations here with her talking about how, is he getting in the way of the police, or should he just become the police? And it's I thought it was really cool the way that was done, just seeing that she is on his side, and basically getting Trish's insight into what's going on without actually seeing her was really cool. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, I want to see Jessica Jones, I want to see Daredevil in the show. Do I think they're going to be in this season? I mean, what I think they're going to do is a post-credit scene with either Jessica or Matt. I could definitely see him doing that. But keep in mind, this is Luke Cage. This is meant to be his show. If you put the other characters in here, it kind of interferes with it being his show. So the way they're very subtly getting main characters from Jessica Jones or Daredevil and putting them in this, I think is really well done, and really they're handling that very well. So Scarf then meets with Cottonmouth, who says that he never thought he'd be happy to see his ugly face. And this is really, I think, the scene that pretty much drives the rest of the episode forward. And Scarf says they can't all be as pretty as he is. Cottonmouth asks if he has the goods, and Scarf says he knows he always comes correct, so it's all piled up there just waiting for him. Cottonmouth asks if they should square up, and Scarf says that they are square, and there are a few zeros about 100k worth, and Cottonmouth says he's not giving him another dime. Scarf says he doesn't need another dime, he just needs 100k cash, no guns, and if there's no gun, he will not get him to Domingo, because of course Domingo's going to get him the bullet to kill Luke, and he says the ghetto CNN is working overtime, and if he doesn't make it straight, he's done, plus he's got all his cash in lockup, and Cottonmouth tells him to think about how he just wants to spend the rest of his life. Scarf says his juice is water since Luke punked him, and Cottonmouth punches him, and Scarf goes for his gun. Cottonmouth throws it out of his hand, starts shooting at him. Scarf ducks underneath the car, and Cottonmouth says when he catches him, he's going to use his hands, and Cottonmouth leaves once some witnesses show up, leaving Scarf with a bullet in his gut from his own gun. Crazy scene overall, the way it was done, but like I said, that really is the starting point of this episode. The rest of this episode, really everything is building off that scene, and the way they did that, I really did love. And we see Mariah, she's filming an ad, says she believes in Harlem, and this by far, out of every, Mariah really had the most to do in this episode. I mean, Mariah so far, she's been a good character. We haven't seen a ton of her, though a lot of it's been a lot of back and forth between her and Cottonmouth, and this is really the episode where her plot really comes to the forefront, and I really like that. So, she's filming an ad, says she believes in Harlem, and says her version of it is saturated with jazz and good food, and the pure genius that permeates the street. She says that Harlem is rising like a phoenix out of the ashes, and that's what all of her various complex is about. It's about restoring that luster, and the guy filming the ad says it's fantastic and asks if they can leave it because the crew needs to set up for later. She lets them leave. Luke then stops by, and we get the first scene between these two. He asks her about her new VH1 show, Criminal Spinster. She asks who he's calling a spinster. She says that she could wear his narrow ass out, and she asks what this, and honestly, I believe her. I honestly think she could, and she asks what this about. He says that he's taking her cousin down in her too. She asks if he's threatening her, and he says never that. He puts up his hood and leaves, and she tells the camera crew to come inside. Basically, I think he's just saying, stay away from your brother because it's not safe, and Luke is then with Fish in a diner, says he is no barber. Fish says he's not either. Luke says he thought that they both agreed that Harlem is a better place with the shop open. And he says as soon as he puts Cottonmouth in handcuffs, he's merely a ghost. He's just not going to interfere. You know, getting rid of Cottonmouth, that's one thing. Cleaning up the streets, that's fine. But after that, he doesn't feel like he really wants to be a hero. Because again, he does not want to be a hero. We reiterate that in this episode. You know, he's only doing this to do right by Pop. That's really why. You know, Cottonmouth was responsible for Pop's death. That's why he wants to put him behind bars. But after that, he's done. So Fish says he could make a career out of robbing bad guys. He really feels like this could be something he's good at. But Luke says it would be a perfect career. Fish asks if he's ever thought about playing for the Giants and says he could make that squad easily. Luke says being hood famous is bad enough. He couldn't be in the public eye on that level because, you know, they constantly be in his face. He doesn't want to be a celebrity. He doesn't want to be surrounded by cameras. He wants to just be a regular guy, and I think that's something they've shown very well with Luke in these 6 episodes, is that he really wants to be his own person and doesn't want to be this superhero. That's not who he is, and that's really why the comparison to Superman and Captain America that I see is completely wrong, because Superman and Captain America, they embrace the public. I mean, they really enjoy it. I mean, remember Captain America, he started out as a public figure. Luke, on the other hand, the reason that he's a more interesting character, not to saying that Cap and Superman aren't interesting, the difference between Luke and Cap and, Superman is that Luke doesn't want to be a superhero. He doesn't want to be surrounded by the public. He doesn't want any of that to happen. He just wants to be his own person, and I think it's something we really do get into very well in this episode. So, Mariah's in outrage to learn that Cottonmouth shot a cop. He says that he couldn't just let him stick for 100 large, says it wasn't like he went to the meeting strap, it was his gun that busted off, and she says that he went there alone because he knew he was wrong, and says if he lives, everything that they have built will come crashing down, and that's very much true. I mean, if with Scarf having this intel and the information that he does, there's no way that he's going to be on Cottonmouth's side, and he is not dragging her with him, and again, says that she wants no part of this, and he says that his guns are going to pick up the guns right now, says they'll hand them over to Domingo tonight, and she says she doesn't want details, she just wants results. He says he doesn't work for her, and she says to forget about the cops because they're bad enough, and then says that he immediately tells him that he has to kill Luke, and even suggests ways, and such as like drowning, electrocution, and yeah, these are things that they haven't really thought about. I mean, he can be drowned, he can be electrocuted. It's not like he can be poisoned. Like, these things aren't inept to Luke. I mean, yes, he can't be like run over by something or anything because again, he's bulletproof, but he can in fact, be drowned. He's still human. He's not completely inhuman. And she immediately tells him he has to kill Luke, and he says that she should be focusing on her interview. That's where her main focus should be, and she says to forget the money in the club, tells him to sell it and walk away from all this shit because this just isn't doing him any good, and says people are still talking about how tall he stood at Pop's memorial. Kamo says he's proud of her and says that he can take care of himself. She says he needs to take his ass out. He said it's not that easy since he's bulletproof, and she asks if he has gills and says to drown him, and asks if he can burn, and asks if he can poison him, and then asks about a woman and says he knows he's got one with his fine ass, and says to find his weakness and squeeze, and he says she's sounding a lot like Mama Maybell, and he says not to worry about Luke and says his days are numbered. He's got something planned for him and says that she has his word. So basically, he's going on the trail to kill Luke. We don't see Cottonmouth for a lot of this episode. We only see about 4 scenes this episode, but that's really because most of this episode is based on how Cottonmouth has screwed everyone over, and we definitely do see that. So Perez, one of the cops who warned Misty about Scarf last time, we find it is also on Cottonmouth's payroll. He's now got the job of actually taking out Scarf, because Cottonmouth wants to make sure that Scarf's dead. Scarf has this information, and he's going to make sure that Scarf does not go to the cops about it. So Claire's with Soledad and is in the same diner that Luke and Fisher are in, and Claire says that this is why she needs her to learn how to text. Soledad says she always thinks the worst. Claire asks what she needs. Soledad says it's not her, it's her that needs something, and shows her where Luke is. He sees her, she goes to him, says he probably doesn't remember her, and it's a reasonably awkward scene. I mean, it's been definitely time since, has passed since these two have met each other, and this is sort of the thing that Luke was running away from. Remember, he was trying to run away from Jessica, so kind of his past has come back to haunt him, and Claire is the perfect example of that. But I also like the way that Claire is really there to give him confidence. Claire's playing a much different role than she did in Daredevil. I mean, people have said this, that what they do in these shows is that every show she kind of plays a different role. In Daredevil, she was there to take care of Matt, really. She was there to be his caretaker, the one to look to for advice, things like that. That's why she was there. Jessica Jones, she's really there because she doesn't really know what's going on, and she wants a better explanation of what's going on. And now that she's fully aware of what's going on, she's going to do whatever she can to help these Inhumans really be the best that they possibly can be, and be these vigilantes and these Inhumans be inhuman. She's gonna let them do that, and I really think she's gonna be the one to jumpstart the Defenders. I really think that's what's gonna happen, but we'll have to see. He says he probably doesn't remember her, reminds him how they met. He then realizes who she is. Fish introduces himself and says that she is far too beautiful to ever apologize for anything, and remember that. Fish gets up and Claire sits down. He says she didn't have to do what she did for him, and she asks if he's ever saved anyone's life before. She says that he has more than once, and says the only thing he can think about afterwards is that they're okay. And he says that he's still there, and she asks how, and she says says the shotgun blast alone should turn his brain to mush, and he says that he's a freak. She says he's not, he's amazing, and he says he doesn't want to be different than anyone else. He wants to be, just a regular person. And she says to not hide it, asks what he's going to do. And he says he has to go, and she sees him leave, and Soledad says to text her later. So again, obviously kind of awkward between them, especially because she's drilling with questions that he doesn't really want to answer. But again, I do like the way that she's trying to convince him to become a vigilante and to be, actually embrace who he is and not just, try to conceal it, because that's something that Luke's clearly trying to do. And like she's saying, look, that's not, the best way to be serviced. You're not servicing yourself as well if you are just being a human. You're going to be more serviced if you are an Inhuman, and I like seeing that. So Captain Audrey meets with all the cops, says that she's hearing a lot of rumors about Scarf and what he might have been into, says to kill that noise, they need him back alive, and there was a lot of trail of his blood at the sea, and his car was riddled with bullets. They don't know what happened, and says to focus on that, says she's putting in APB, they're closing up streets, roadblocks, whatever it takes, and tells him, remember that this belongs to them and no one else. She says there's already too many faces there as far as she's concerned, there's only going to be more, and they need to be the ones to bring him home, and tells him to do it. So Perez then goes to Misty, asks how she's holding up. She says she'd be doing a lot better if people stopped staring at her like she's dirty. Captain Audrey goes to her, asks her if she knows since Scarf must have told her something. There's evidence that the guns from the junkyard shootout are in that house. Misty asks if it was stolen from their evidence locker, and Perez says that his partner is his top suspect, and Misty says that doesn't mean that Scarf did it. He probably got a lead and went to check it out because she just doesn't believe that Scarf could do something like that. And honestly, people say that Misty's an idiot for thinking this, but it's honestly understandable. I mean, especially given the history of Misty and Scarf in this episode, it would make sense why she's trying to make him more like a victim and less like a suspect. It definitely makes sense. So she assigns both of them on the case since obviously Scarf is now corrupt and just wouldn't be a good idea, and she says she needs her best, and now Perez and Misty are her best. So there's a lot of good interplay between these two in the episode, and I honestly thought they did a pretty good job with that. But as we know, Perez is also working for a con mouse, so you basically don't trust anything he says throughout this entire episode. So basically, we then see after this, Luke is with Claire, and who has in fact followed him, and basically she says that she can disappear, says the whole point of living in New York, that no one cares about anybody, and that is a very important line, honestly, because, yeah, that seems to be the truth. A perfect example of that is the robbery in the last episode where, Cottonmouth's men were just going at it, robbing everyone, not caring who they are, where they're from. They didn't care as long as they could obtain money, and especially in New York, a place that is extremely just filled to the brim with homeless people, they will do whatever they can to get scraps of money. They don't care who you are, where you're from, and Harlem is one of those really dangerous places, and honestly, I think that's a perfect, that's a perfect line. I really did love that. And Claire says a building fell on him, people are shooting at him, and he walks around without a scratch. And it's obviously hard to ignore that. I mean, he seems to be completely okay, and obviously people are going to take an interest in him for that reason. So they go to Pops, and she asks him what's wrong. He says the door's supposed to be locked and calls up her fish, and then sees this is where Scarf is now holed up, thanks to a lack of any other options, obviously because it just wasn't safe there. So Claire says they have to get him to a hospital. Scarf says if they did, they'd kill him. It's just like Chico. And if they find, they will find him. And Claire says she'll work on his wound right there. Scarf goes back to Misty and sits on the couch. Perez is there. And it seems that Misty is now having these visions, which is very interesting. But he says that he is a weirdo. And the people at the precinct talk about her like he's a quarandera or some shit. Like she sees things. And she says that she was the person that could find Waldo faster than anyone else. And we get some good insight into her character. She talks about how she's kind of like the one that could find Waldo, and says that, if you slow things down, take a look at things and then fill in the blanks, that's how you find Waldo. He says that she would work for Kodak, and she asks if his clothes are still there. He says they are, and she says if he wasn't taken, there's a chance he might come back, and they should stake it out for a while. He says he never thought that Scarf would be Q as a kid, and she says that's not Scarf, that's actually his son Earl. And she says that he's dead, and she tells Perez that one day he forgot to lock up his gun. His son accidentally killed himself with it, and she says he cracks many jokes, but he rarely smiles, which I thought to be very interesting, and they honestly did a very good job at making me feel for this character. I mean, a character that we're not really supposed to like. They did a good job with really humanizing him, and I really did like that. And that's something that Luke Cage does in general, is it really knows that he humanized characters, and they do a really good job with that overall. So Mariah's at home, sees a picture of Mama Maybelle, tells her to shut it, and calls her a dusty old bitch. So I kind of saw that as she has all this information, but she's going to try to make it go well. I mean, we don't really know what Mama Maybelle's all about, but I thought that was interesting. So Claire tells Luke she can remove the bullet force from his thigh, but the shot on his side is worse. And if the bullet pierced his liver, she can't do anything about that there. And Luke tells him to give him one good reason why he shouldn't just dump him at the 29th, and he says he told him they're trying to kill him. She tells him not to move, tells him to stay there, and he asks who she is. She says that she's the woman trying to save his life, and he says he's going to have to stay and lay low there for a while. Luke says he won't let him do that until he tells him what's going on, because obviously there's a reason why he was shot, and Scarf winces in pain, then literally tells Luke everything. The fact that Cottonmouth was behind everything, and how he was, working with him, and Luke asks him what makes him think he could protect him, and Scarf says that he survived the drive-by in the building, and he thinks that he can help him with this, and Luke says he mentioned Chico before he passed out, and asked him what happened to him. Scarf tells him that he killed Chico, and Luke responds with a quite frightening bit where they see this look on him. It comes over his face. He almost strangles Scarf until Claire snaps him out of it and says he's not a killer, and I like the way that Claire seems to be the one that stopped him. Claire's kind of like Reva, where she's his motivation. I definitely really did like that. So Luke says they're done, tells Claire to go, and Scarf begs him to come back, as that although he is an asshole, Cottonmouth is a lot worse, and he has plenty of evidence back at his apartment that'll put Cottonmouth away for good. And this is where things get interesting. They go back to him, Luke asks what he has, and Scarf says detailed notes of murder investigations that he locked up to cover his ass, how he used Spurlock's mortuary to dispose of the bodies, and says that's why he never found Tone or Chico, which I don't think we knew that. I don't think we knew that he had this mortuary, but apparently he did. Plus, he's got the name of every cop on Cottonmouth's payroll. That'll be enough to send him on a nice permanent trip. And Luke asks where the notes are. Scarf says that they're at his apartment. Luke goes out to find him, and Mariah is them with the cameraman and lets them know no one is to go in the back, make sure the people don't scoff up our floors. The reporter tells her that since this is live, they'll try to keep things spontaneous, and asks her if there's any topic she'd like to focus on. Mariah says the big subject is Harlem, and the reporter encourages her to be more fun than usual. Mariah takes this wanting a meaningless fluff piece, and she basically says to just make it fun, and we don't really know what her angle is here, but Misty and the Perez are then staking out Scarf's place, and Misty says that he's a popular man, says his ex-wife took all of his money, and she still needs the dick. She says that she's glad to see chivalry isn't dead. He says that Scarf isn't coming, he's not going to show up just to get arrested, and she turns her attention to a couple arguing. She says that he should go arrest him, and this caused them to miss Luke breaking in. I don't know how she missed this, but Luke does break in. He's able to obtain, all the documents, and she says she doesn't know if he remembers her from 10 years ago when she first got bumped off patrol. He says it didn't seem like she belonged, and she says a lot of people wrote her off back then, but not Scarf, who took her under his wing, taught her how to police for real, and she has no idea what she saw in her back then, but he has had her front and her back since. So we did get a little insight into them, the fact these two have been working for a very long time, and I really did like seeing that into Misty's backstory. So Luke is in the apartment. He sees a trapdoor under the rug containing the documents. Misty says if he's clean, she wants to be the one to bring him down. Asks him his side of the story. She owes him that much. Luke finds a notepad, and Misty finally notices the busted door, but Luke still gets away with the evidence. Claire's with Scarf, tells him not to fall asleep because he needs to stay conscious. Says they're going to move soon. Luke comes back, says the cops just saw him at Scarf's place and will be headed there any minute. Says it was Misty, and she says he can't really walk, and he says he'll carry him to the only place the evidence makes a difference. Says we'll try to get a cab, and she says she has a better idea. Calls Soledad, already has one of her mother's catering vans ready for them, and luckily he's able to get Scarf in the cab. Soledad warns him that if anything happens to Claire, she'll kill him. She doesn't care how bulletproof he is. He assures her that she's safe with him, and he gets in the cab and drives. She says that he really needs surgery and asks how far they're going. He says downtown to one police plaza. He says he's gonna hand him, and this is really where the episode jump starts. After this, it's like a non-stop thrill ride, and I loved every second of it. He says, he's going to hand him in the evidence, and the DA can pick up from there. Says they can get him around the clock protection until he can testify against Cottonmouth, and Scarf says he's dying back there, and he's still thinking about Cottonmouth. Luke says he is. He should be too if he's got as many cops working for him as he says he'll have them, because obviously all of these cops are working for Cottonmouth, and they'll do whatever they can to make sure that Cottonmouth wins over Luke. So he tells Claire to call an EMT to trust that he's there. The reporter, Thambi, that's her name. Thembi, she is interviewing Mariah, starts the interview encouraging viewers to call Mariah if they have any questions. So Thembi says her home is stunning. Mariah says that's why people are paying millions of dollars for bronzestones like this one on Convent Avenue, and says this building must be protected and preserved. Thembi then asks her about someone named Damon Boone, who was also running for mayor, and Mariah says that Stanford-educated carpetbagger has been saying things about her voting record about campaign finance that simply are not true, and she says that her complexes will do for black-owned real estate what Jeffrey Canna has done for Record Uptown. So we very much see that Mariah is trying to clear her reputation, is trying to show that she really is serious about what she's doing. And I do like seeing that. I like seeing that she actually does want to clean up Harlem, and she actually is serious about that. There are very few characters who actually, do actually know how to clean up Harlem, and she actually does look at it in a good angle. So Perez gets a call from Cottonmouth about the van, who tells him about the problem they ran into. Cottonmouth says that if Scarf talks, he is not the only one going down, and half the department is coming with him, says to find him. And obviously, he doesn't trust Perez right now because, he's not going to get him Scarf. So Zip comes in, asks where Shades is. Cottonmouth says he doesn't know. I'm going to tell you guys right now, he's probably going to see Diamondback. That's what I think is going to happen. I'll get into that more when we get to the end of the episode, but he decides to assign the job to Zip, who tells him he has a choice, and he reluctantly gives him the job. He says he wants Scarf dead and looks for a green band of plate 69 or something. So one group quickly finds him. Luke says the traffic sucks. Claire says that there's a police checkpoint up ahead in the next couple of blocks, and Luke says that Scarf's people will be looking for them. They're probably closing the whole island down, bridges, tunnels, which of course we know they are. So Scarf says that's the way he would have done it. Claire says to not take 128 and make a sharp right. The drivers realize that they see the van. They start catching up to it. Luke says it looks like they have company. This scene was insane. Scarf asks if it's a squad car. Luke says it's a black SUV. He says he'll slow down, sees if he passes. A full car chase ensues. Luke tells him to kill the lights, and the gangsters get out shooting the van up, only to find everyone already gone, and Luke got them out by ripping a hole in the van's side, which is just insane, but that's how he's able to get them out. And I love seeing that. I thought that was an awesome car chase, and yeah, people could say it was convenient, but again, really does go into how Luke is there to protect people, and I really did like seeing that. So Perez then asks Misty what they're doing, says that they should be heading back to the precinct, and Misty says that they hear something, she wants to be ready to go, not stuck behind some damn desk, and then they get word on the van. So Perez asks if they are running, why would they go down there? She says they might not have been running. She puts the siren on, he stops it, she asks what he's doing, he asks why she wants to rush down there, she says he may need her help, and he says shots fired means that he resisted arrest. They probably lit his ass up, and if he's dirty or not, she doesn't want to see it if he's still her partner. She then gets a call from Scarf. He keeps asking her who it is, and she hangs up. He asks what he said. She says that he told her not to trust him, that he's in on all this, and he says she can't believe that. He's lying. He's in Cottonmouth's pocket more than he ever was, and she says who was really on the phone was actually a microphone recording the confession, which this was pretty genius, I have to say. And basically, she actually wasn't talking to anyone. She was recording the confession the whole time, and he says she's too smart for him. She tells him to give his gun. They get into a whole fight. She gets out of the car, tells him to cuff himself, and obviously is going to take him to jail, because she now knows that he's working for Cottonmouth, and I love the way that was done. And it really just showed that Misty isn't incapable. I know a lot of people say that Misty's dumb, but I thought it was very well done the way it was handled. Then we get this other awesome twist. Now, obviously, we knew that Perez was going to be brought down, but this next twist with Mariah, I didn't see this coming at all. This was awesome. I love this. Mariah says that if she's in her interview, she's watching footage of the video taken before. She tells Tembi she says she wants something different, and this is it. She can see it all right there, and says she doesn't just represent Harlem, she is Harlem. And then they go live, and Tembi starts drilling her with questions. She's getting a lot more, less of friendly interview, and more of a very hard interrogation. And she asks her which Harlem is her. Mariah asks what she's talking about. Tembi says there's actually two Harlems, the one shown to them in that video, historic, hardworking, and hopeful, but in the next video they see an entirely different Harlem, a historically corrupt Harlem. And she says that her grandmother, the notorious Mama Maybelle Stokes, and her brother Pistol Pete Stokes were major players in it, and the boy in that photo would grow up to be Conmouth, a man who name rings out in both legitimate and critical circles. So we clearly see that the name Stokes definitely is a very notorious name in Harlem, and Mariah says that that is one personal information, says she really has no right to show that one, and Tembi asks her about the robbery and the money recovered from Christmas attacks, and says that she can see how it can be difficult to decipher which Harlem she stands for. And Mariah said despite these unwarranted attacks on her character, she has always tried to make it clear what she wants, what she can say. For her, it's very clear for her what she wants: the story, not the news, not the truth, a story that she will do anything to sell. She tells him to shut it down, kicks her and the camera crew out, and basically the entire thing was a setup. It clearly was a way to get into under Mariah's skin and basically see really what angle she's playing. I thought that scene was incredible, the way it was done. So Luke, Scarf, and Claire then get away from the gang. They go into a parking garage. Zip's guys catch up to them. They try to run over Claire and Scarf with the van. Luke jumps in front of it. Obviously, he's able to stop it. So Luke asks if she's okay. She says he kept her promise. No scratches on her. Misty arrives just in time to see Scarf, and that scene was incredible, where we finally got to see Luke jump in front. I love that, but basically, Misty does arrive in time to see Scarf. He falls to the ground. Claire tells Luke to hold his head up and to look at her. Misty goes to him and says that he's got a lot of explaining to do. He says he's not getting out of it. He says she's better let him do the interrogation. He's better at it, and she laughs, and he says he's not. He says he's got report and says he's sorry. She cries, and he unfortunately does die. And honestly, I did feel bad for Misty. This was someone she looked up to, and yes, Scarf was someone who was doing a lot of illegal things and was very unjust in what he did, but this was her mentor. This was someone she looked up to and made her become who she is today. So I really did feel bad for Misty in that regard, and they did a really good job with doing that. You know, even though he was who he was, you know, he was in general someone who did care about Misty, and I really did like that. So we cut to Misty. The rest of the episode kind of plays out like a season finale, so this was kind of cool. We cut to Misty. She slaps handcuffs on Conmouth, and they actually do arrest him. They investigate the club, and she actually seems satisfied. And we're back at Mariah's house. The reporter, having her best day ever, is still around to sandbag her again with the news. You know, they're asking her all these questions, and Claire goes back to pestering Luke about becoming a superhero, but he still insists he doesn't want it. He says he did right by Pop, and now that Cottonmouth is in jail, he's done. He doesn't want any part of it. And she asks if he's moving on. He says he thinks so. It's time. She says there are things with his powers he hasn't even tested, and there are many things that he can still do, and maybe she could help. And he asks if she has any ideas. He says that they should start by getting some coffee first, and she says that she's not sleeping with him. He says he didn't say anything about that. Asks why coffee can't just be coffee. She says he didn't even touch his coffee this morning. He drank the orange juice, and it would seem that he's done. It doesn't seem like he's going to go after Cottonmouth anymore, but I feel like definitely there's going to be something larger at play to get him to come back. You know that's going to happen, but we'll have to see. But then we get to the ending. We see Misty looks at a photo of Scarf's son. Audrey goes to her, tells her that they're afraid of the headlines, police corruption, a crime boss who's related to a prominent city councilwoman. The only person to tie it all together is now dead, obviously. So Misty says she'll be the one to tie it all together, and Audrey says she's on the wrong side of the glass for that. Says first it was Fisk, referencing Wilson, and now Conmouth. This is huge, but they're over there, and they're right there, and there's not really much they can do about it. And basically that they don't feel they can go after Conmouth, and that they know they've gone after him, and they don't really know how much farther they can go with it. And that is the way the episode ends. Amazing stuff overall. Let's just get into this episode because there is a lot to talk about. In terms of events and plots and things like that, this episode really was insane. I mean, so much went down in this episode that, like I said, it really did feel like a season finale. But I really think that Luke Cage is going in the Daredevil direction, where we are getting away from Cottonmouth for a little bit. But I'm going to tell you right now, just like the Punisher, he will come back into the forefront. Now, maybe he's not going to play as major of a role. I'm thinking that we're going to get Diamond back next episode. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, Shades has gone off. Cottonmouth doesn't know where he is. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think Shades definitely has gone to see Diamondback. He's going to try to get that bullet. He's going to try to use it for himself. He doesn't seem to care much about Cottonmouth, and I think that definitely is what's going to end up happening there. So that whole stuff is very interesting. And the fact that Cottonmouth is now behind bars, I mean, we don't really know where that's going. But at the same time, Wilson Fisk was behind bars in Daredevil, and we saw that he still played a major role. Punisher went behind bars. He still played a major role. So this definitely is not the last we're going to see a Cottonmouth. He's the second main character for a reason. We're going to see him again. I don't know how, but we will definitely see him again the next episode. Mariah. I really love where Mariah's storyline is going because honestly, the fact that her reputation is now ruined mainly because of the Stokes name, a name that she really didn't want her name tied to at all, mainly because she has a different last name, and also because she is serious with cleaning up Harlem, now that everyone is going to think that she's a phony, I mean, I don't really know what she's going to be able to do. In fact, I think this season could end up with her killing Cottonmouth. I could really see that happening because the way that things are headed, I mean, it just seems like things are going to get worse and worse for her, and Cottonmouth really is the thing that's keeping people from taking her seriously, and we definitely do see that, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to go. Claire and Luke, I really do love their banter overall. I think definitely it's a good idea for Luke to become a hero, and the thing that's going to make him want to become a hero is going to be the return of Diamondback. We know that there's some sort of history between those two. We know that he has this bullet for Luke, and definitely we're going to start to see how that all plays out, I think, next episode. Definitely something big is going to happen there. I heard there's a huge twist in episode 7. I don't know exactly what it is or how it plays out or, you know, what exactly happens in said twist, but I know there's definitely a twist, and I'm looking forward to seeing the way that that all goes down, because that's going to be very interesting as well, the way that, you know, everything went down with that. I can't wait to see the way that the twist ends up happening, because I really don't know what's going to happen with that twist. And also with Audrey saying, what is Audrey really talking about? I mean, now they have Cottonmouth behind bars. She's talking about the rest of his guys. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of guys working for Cottonmouth, and I don't know if Misty really can take them all down. We'll have to see. I think Misty wants to think that, but is she really as strong without, you know, someone by her side? We'll have to see, because I think that's going to be very interesting to see where that's going to go. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that, but overall, guys, just a really eventful episode. So much shit went down this episode. I can't wait for next episode. I'm going to watch episode 7 right now, honestly. This is one of those episodes where you really need to watch the next one, because I don't know really where we are headed, and that's why I'm so excited. I really think we're going to the second half of the season. I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the second half of the season, but we'll have to see what happens with that. Definitely they're going to take a Daredevil approach. The difference is that Daredevil, that ended in episode 4, this is episode 6, so definitely there's going to be more with Cottonmouth. We'll have to see what happens with that. Overall, guys, I'm guys thought this episode. Love to your thoughts on it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for episode 7 of Luke Cage, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.